Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Agents and Actions. We're going to be talking about from spreadsheets to smart agent, getting started with Airtable plus SmythOS. And this is kind of unique because we're going to do no paid plan needed. I'm your host, Amber Graner. I'm head of community and developer relations here at SmythOS. And Mike Sell, our VP of AI delivery here at SmythOS, is going to be presenting this webinar. So today as I'm doing right now, I'm welcoming. We're gonna get everything set up. We're gonna talk about why Airtable plus SmythOS. Mike's actually gonna walk us through a live demo. He's gonna build an agent. I think he's gonna talk about some use cases, next steps, and even throw in a little bit of extra information here for you. And then after that, we're gonna give you the opportunity to ask some questions. We'll answer those questions, and we want to remind you got to start where you are. Many people think, where do I get started? How do I build my first agent? Well, you know the tools you use and you know what you have to do more than once or maybe twice. There's a saying in open source. If you have to do the same thing more than twice, you need a script for it. In our case, if you got to do the same thing more than twice, maybe you need that agent to do it. So start where you are, build with what's free, automate what matters, and go from there. So in this case, Airtable matters. Mike, with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you get started and explain to everybody why Airtable plus SmythOS. So thanks for being here with us.
You bet. And I'm very excited to share a little bit. And we're going to start with actually looking at Airtable itself. And I've just created a little base here, and I actually created an agent to actually create this table for me. This is all a bunch of table created through an agent, and then I imported it into here using this add or import piece for this one. I just imported it as a CSV file. I could have actually inserted it using the API, but I just wanted to get this done really quickly. But here's where we're at. We've got a table here. It's got name, notes, status, and a modified date. And it's got about 200 rows, I think, 183. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create an agent that will go ahead and basically allow you to search this, either the name or the status, to find information inside of your Airtable. And then go ahead and update the note if you want to update the note on what you found. One of the things to understand about Airtable is you need to know what your base is. And that is something that you can find right up in here after the word app in your setup. And then this is the base here, but there's something that makes it much, much easier. If you go off to the left and then go down to the help, and then you scroll down and you'll see down here API documentation here. We'll move this a little bit so that people can see better. API documentation. And API documentation takes you to here. And the first thing it's going to do is really give you API documentation for your specific base. And this ID here, this base, is something that we will need. We'll come back to it. The other thing you're going to need in order to access the API is to actually get the authentication piece done. And authentication with Airtable via the API uses this thing called a personal access token that's found here in Create Tokens. So what we'll do is I'll walk you through this. I've got a token already set up. I'm going to create one for you just so you can see what it's all about. We're just going to call this demo. The key thing here you need to understand is you need to understand that you want to provide it access to your base. Like in this case, I'm going to say access to my base, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. And then I need to add a scope. In other words, what can it do? What can it look at? Well, we know we need to be able to read the records in order to search them. And we need to be able to write the records in order to update that piece there. We're also going to go ahead and add something called schema read. That allows us to see the structure of a base, like looking at the table names, field types, the bases that are actually available other than my base. In this case, it's only going to give me back my base because of the access that I've given it. But this now gives me a token that I can create. I'm going to copy this and bring it over, and now you can see I've got this here. Well, I'm actually not because I just shared that. That's not secure, and I like secure. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And what you would do is you bring that over into SmythOS, and in SmythOS we have something called a vault. The vault stores your API keys. And in my case, what I did is I created a key specifically for Airtable here, and then gave or inserted that API key. I'll show you what that looks like because I created that deleted one. But we'll just call it Airhead, like I can be sometimes. I'm going to copy in that key that I already deleted. I'm going to set it to API call and then go ahead and save it. In my case, I've already created it. It's called Airtable key, and that'll be important as we go forward later on. SmythOS has a vault. That vault allows you to get access to both um, uh, APIs for OpenAI, Anthropic, Google AI, or Perplexity. You don't have to worry about API keys. As long as you have an account and you've put in your credit card, you can go ahead and use these, and we will go ahead and cover some of those as part of the credits that are part of your account, and then you'll be charged for that later on. You can see all about that in the documentation. You can also bring your own models where you pull in your API keys, and that's where you're going to see this personal versus the SmythOS APIs in the LLMs, and I'll show that to you as we progress. Um, you can also bring in completely custom models that you've trained, even small language models for really, really important things that you want to get done. You can also bring in enterprise models like, for example, models from Bedrock or from Gemini or Vertex. And those can then be used in your agents. OAuth connections as well. And in fact, you can actually do OAuth with Airtable. We're not going to cover that today. We're just going to cover the API key. If that's something you want to see, we can do that in a future one. Just let us know. Go ahead and put a comment in the YouTube video. Be happy to add that on and tack that on for you. Um, Finally, let's go ahead and go back and take a look at our piece here. The way that I like to start every single agent now uh, inside of SmythOS is by using a prompt. Doesn't have to be complex, doesn't have to be highly engineered, but in this case, I'm just going to create an agent that can search and display records from an air-based or air here, air table base table and then use a chatbot to update the notes on a record. I can also add a screenshot that actually kind of lays out the flow of what I want to happen. I'm going to do this, and then what's going to happen is Agent Weaver is going to go ahead and take a look at my prompt, and then it's going to analyze it, look at it, and say, what plan should I prepare? And you can see it's preparing the action plan. And then it's going to go ahead and put together a plan. It's going to look at best practices. It's going to look at examples of other kind of templates of different ways of doing things and how to make them happen. And then it's going to actually probably ask me some questions like, hey, what's your base? If you remember, that's back over here. I can go ahead and pull that from here, but it's probably going to ask me what is my base and what table are you wanting to actually work with for this? So this is going to take a minute. Now it's going through, it's going that deep reasoning thinking through and putting together the different components to put that together. And now, like I expected, it's coming back. It's going to ask me for my base ID. And so yep, that's not the base ID. Let's go ahead and get the base ID. There it is. And then I'll also give it the table name, and the table name in my case is people notes. Now, what I can also do is instead of people name, I can come back over to here and there's the people notes fields, and people notes actually also has an ID. And this is sometimes better to use, and we can actually change this out. Um, so in other words, let's do that, in fact. The reason is you can go ahead and change people notes name to maybe you want to capitalize people in notes. And the Airtable API token, that is Airtable key. And so now it's going to take what I've put in here. Since it's asked me for these three things, I just went ahead and put them on three lines. It's usually pretty good about figuring that out. It goes ahead, puts together the action plan, and then it will actually build the agent in front of our very eyes. The way that SmythOS works, everything is an agent. It starts as an agent, and then we add skills. You can also add global variables, and this is very useful if, for example, you want to create an agent and you want to be able to duplicate it, right? For example, you want to create one for you, but then you have a customer who says, "Hey, I really like this. Can you do this for me?" You can actually then create an agent, duplicate this agent, and then just change the things that need to be changed. Like, for example, you could actually use, like, put in the base here and that sort of thing so that you could actually then make a copy and all you have to do is change those base variables. Um, the base ID. So that allows you to go ahead and create multiple agents. One of the things we will take a look at is the debug capabilities, the test capabilities, deploy, and probably maybe take a look at inspecting what's going on and then some components. And then we'll actually take a look at, although we're probably not going to do much with the Airtable integrations. So I'm taking you a bit into the advanced world here so you can see what's going on and see how Agent Weaver can help you to do even more than what's available in the integrations. Okay, so now it's got that and it's going ahead and going to build out our actual agent here in front of your eyes. So this is oftentimes a great way to get started, especially if you're not sure what to do or how to do it, but you can actually explain what it is that you want to do. And as you can see here, it's gone ahead and created our agent for us. It's created two skills. Oh, it says, "Hey, wait a minute. Hey, I'm actually needing to go ahead and fix some potential issues." So let's let it go ahead and fix those issues and make sure that everything makes sense. And it looks like it's got a little confused on something, but we'll see here. So here's, oh, no, I didn't. So what this one is doing, just to, here, let me go ahead and zoom in. So you can see here, we've gone from a simple prompt to getting things going, and it's gone ahead and actually created our Airtable API calls for us. It's put in the base. It will go ahead and pass in the input here for record ID as part of the information, and then it's going to go ahead and use the authorization from our vault. So we won't see that API key. And then it's going to go ahead and add information or basically change the notes. This is an update record. So you don't have to know all the API calls. You don't have to know all that fancy stuff. You didn't even have to notice, though this is kind of fancy. It's actually doing a patch method, not a post, which is different than what's normal. In most cases, that would be a post. I'm so glad for Agent Weaver. And then the other thing it's going to do here is it's going to use the GenAI LLM to go ahead and take and work with the data. And in this case, it's going to use the record ID and say, "Hey, record ID, da 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 da." I don't really care about the record ID. So I'm actually going to remove that and just say record. And there's the updated record. And we can see here that it's got some advanced things, but remember I told you I would let you go ahead and take a look at this. If you see in here something that says SmythOS, and we go back, if you recall those ones at the top where you don't have to provide an API key, these are SmythOS models that you can use. Anything you see that's SmythOS, anything that you see that says personal, that's my own API key. So if I want to use my own API key as opposed to using SmythOS credits, I could just select the right one here. So this is our processing of the updated record, and it's going to show me that output. And this is going to interact with our agent here. This is the one that's going to search for the records. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. This is our what we call the API endpoint. Each API endpoint is actually an API endpoint that's available as soon as you hit deploy on a production URL that you can use. And you can also use a CNAME to go ahead and display it on your own domain. Like, for example, my Airtable records handler dot mydomain.com. Uh, so, and then we can go ahead and see here that this is actually going to take a look at. It's going to do a get, and it's using our base here. And it's going to go ahead and get the records from our table, and then it's going to go ahead and format the results. And what you can see is it's going to take the search query that we gave, or basically we're asking for, and filter and highlight the relevant records out of the records that have been passed back. This may not always be the correct approach for you, but it does make it pretty fast and very, very easy. So what do you say we try this one out? Let's go ahead and give it a test and see if it works. Right. So what it's going to do now is it's going to go ahead and it's selected the skill search records the agent has, and then it's going to go ahead and get those and pull those back and give us the results here, and you can see what's going on. You can also inspect to see the search query here is Emma. And then here's the detailed results that have come back. And this is how your agent has decided to put this back to you. This can absolutely be better formatted. And we absolutely, in a production agent would change this to a much, much nicer formatting in a table format as opposed to like this. Now, what I can do is I can take a look at, for example, Emma Clark, and I want to update her notes for update updated budget for roadmap deliverables. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, but the status is waiting on customer. So maybe what we need to do is
Mike, if you're speaking, I can't hear you. Just want to make
I'm
sure.
sorry, I'm just typing. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and run this and see. And as you can see, what's happening here is it's running the update and it's going to come back and tell me what's happened here. And so now what you can see, it's confirmed that the note has been changed. So in a few minutes here, we've gone ahead and created an agent that can now be used to search records and update notes. You can then turn around and use Agent Weaver again to go ahead and add a skill, right? For example, Uh, and then this can actually now add additional functionality to my agent that will go ahead, go back out to Airtable, and then use the data in Airtable, look at the data, and then give me back a list of all the statuses that are currently used. So you can see it's built out that API endpoint, which is the skill that's used to expose it to the agent. And then it's got fetch all records, and it's starting to build out the rest of it. And it's been added. Um, let's try it out here. First of all, let's go ahead and deploy. So one of the things that's important about Smith is anytime you have something that works and you want to save it, you can just go ahead and deploy it. And let's just call this the first version. And now it now becomes available via all of these different potential ways. You can share it as a custom GPT in Chat GPT. You can, and you saw us test this, but you can get very, very specific with how you create this. It can either be a chatbot that sits on the lower right, or you can change it so that it's an inline chat application, just like Chat GPT would be. That all you need to do is click on that message view, and then you go ahead and deploy it on, for example, your web page. All you need to do is grab this after you've configured it. It will take that configuration and it will show up on your website. You can also work from code and actually use this agent as an LLM. You can present it as a form so that it's actually like a form on your website. And of course, you can go ahead and use these skills as an API where you can call them directly. This is what we would call the RPA way of getting through to the skills as opposed to the agentic way. The agent way would be either use it as an MCP server, through a voice server, via LLM, via chatbot, or custom GPT, because what's happening is this agent, which has its own LLM in and of itself, you can see here, it's set up right here. So right now it's using GPT-5 Mini, and this is the instructions that are being given to the agent. Based on these instructions and the LLM that's being given, it's going to decide which of these skills it's actually going to use. So this is why is this better than just quote unquote going to Airtable and just using Airtable? This gives you a variety of ways that you can actually deploy, use, and interact with it, right? So we talked about that deployment methodology, but we can also look at all the different ways this can now be deployed in ChatGPT as a custom GPT, as a chat bot, or as an LLM in and of itself. Like you can treat it as though it were an LLM in OpenAI, or as a web page. All these things are now possible because you have used it inside of Smith. Not only that, Smith can do things more complicated, more interesting by actually transforming the data and looking for things that are very interesting. So, for example, I can actually create another skill that's going to look for duplicates. This is all very, very easy to do. And even if you don't want to actually do all of what I've done here today, you can actually use Weaver to do what you want to do. And you can also build these on your own using API calls. So you're like, oh my gosh, how do I learn all these API calls and where do I know how to get them? Well, that's what Airtable actually has given us an API reference. And the API reference goes through each and every one of these. And you're like, oh my gosh, how do I, list the bases? Now I have to know how to get to this exact way. And how do I do? Oh my goodness, this is hard. And you're right. But we made it easy. There's a Postman collection. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. We're going to go ahead and create an agent here. Whenever you have a Postman collection, you can actually import that collection into a Smith agent and it will build out all of your API components for you. Let me give you an example here. This is the Airtable Airtable Web API Postman collection. It's just a JSON file. And as you can see, SmythOS has detected that, and we're going to go ahead and import it. And now we have an API call for every single one of those methods that's inside of the API collection. Now, this, as you can see, is quite exhaustive. And you can actually search to find, for example, here, let me delete or close that. You can search for example, let's say delete. Let's say I want to delete a base. Where's that? And so I can find it. So now I've got basically a collection of these. And let's say I want to take this, I want to bring it over into my agent. So I've just kind of made this like a place where my code can hang out. All I have to do is on a Mac, I'm going to do Command C, but you can also just hit copy or Control C if you're on a PC. And then you can go back over to your other agent and then just paste that. And now I have that API call in here that I can use. And the base URL, you could just take a look at this one here, and it will give you the base URL, which is with your base, right? Your Airtable base, right? And then I could actually delete bases. I don't want to delete a base, but this is just an example of how easy it is to be able to work with all of the different potential API calls that you will need for working with Airtable. And that covers most of everything we've talked about that today. Is there any questions or anything I could do, Amber, to help answer people's questions or go in deeper? More than happy to do that.
Thanks, Mike. I don't see any questions at this particular moment from anyone. If you're watching on the live chat, feel free to drop a question there. Or if you're in the webinar itself right now, and you've got questions or you've got a comment for Mike, or you know,
Yeah,
you want to let us know something,
people.
please just type it in there or raise your hand. I'll take you off mute and you can actually talk to us. So we'd love to hear from you.
So Lee, what I'm going to do is I've got this. This is the base URL, right? So if you recall, we talked about the agent has these global variables. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and do base. What was it? I want to make sure I get it just right. It's base URL. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create this variable here, base URL, and give it a value. And in my case, I'm going to give it here. I'm just going to do this really quick. I'm going to grab the base, which has the base ID as part of it, right? That's part of my base URL. And let's see. So now if I look at this configuration base URL, I don't need the trailing slash, but other than that, I think I'm good to go. That's my base URL. And now whenever I go back over to this, so for example, if I want to create a table, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do copy. I'm going to go back over to my agent and I'm going to go paste. And now what you can see here is there's base URL. Oh, I want to want to remove those curly braces. I want to get all kinds of confused. Let's save that. Good. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change that out. And you can see it's exactly the same. I don't need to change it out. But now I can actually see that I want to create, I'm going to go ahead and create a table here. We're going to do this in debug mode just so that you can see it. We're just going to call it new table and a field called, well, I'll just go with name, type, and description, and they're all going to be strings. Oh, the name of the field is going to be, let's see, name and the type. We're just going to say string, see if it takes it. I've never done this before. We'll figure it out here. Okay, so we have here a component to create a table. Let's go ahead. We don't want to delete bases at all, so we'll just use this as an example. So what I want to do first is go ahead and test this out um, and see if it works. So I'm going to go into debug, and I'm only going to debug this particular component. It has no inputs yet, but if I step through it, I should be able to make this API call. Let's make sure. Oh, you know what I'm missing? I am missing the authorization. Then I'm going to pull in our Airtable key. Okay, let's go ahead and put in table name. And what I want to do here, so I'm going to change this to actually be an input. And if I turn on debug, I can debug just this one component. And just go my new table. Step into it. It's going to try and run it. It actually seems like it worked. What do you think? You think there's another table here now? Let's go ahead and refresh it and see. No. Oh, did I put in the wrong base? Let's go ahead and go back to our agent and take a look at the response. The response tells us not found. So I need to do a little bit more work on actually getting this uh, to play. So I can also configure this to do mock data. So let's say you're working with an API and you want uh, you don't have, let's say you don't have an API key to it yet. Like you've got a base, but you know what the structure looks like. So you know what the response needs to be out of this API. You can actually put that in here and have this function completely as a fully functioning API call with the response and headers that you can then use inside of your thing until you get the API key. And then you can remove or basically turn off the mock data and then go back to the actual API. Very, very handy feature. Because oftentimes what happens is you need to start building an agent. You know what you're going to get out of the API, but you don't have the API key yet. You're waiting for it. So that pretty much does it. Are any questions? I try to fill some airtime there to see if there's anything more that we can do.
No one has any questions yet, Mike, and I think this has been very enlightening. And I'll tell you, when I'm building agents and stuff, and the prompts make it easy, and all of the picking the source, all that sort of stuff. But deploy always kind of tripped me up a little bit. So I'm glad that you walked through the deploy, um, your agent, and the deployment and the options and things like that. So thank you for taking your time through that piece of it.
Sure. As long as we're doing that, I'm gonna suck up a little time here.
Okay.
Um, so in deploy over on this left-hand bar, you recall that we had done a deployment previously, and we have another deployment. If, let's say, something happens and someone comes in and accidentally deletes this and this, and all of a sudden my agent is no longer working. And let's say they actually even deploy it to production. Someone comes back and says, this thing is not working. You broke everything. Well, guess what? You could just go back to the previous version, and everything is there. The world is right. Everything is saved. So
That is
deploying
awesome.
is always a good thing. So I can't help it. There's so many things that SmythOS does, and there's so many little things and little features. I hope everyone understands the flexibility, capability, and ease of use that you can get out of working with Airtable and SmythOS.
Mike, I think too, not only just the flexibility and the capabilities, but the portability of
Yeah.
what we have, like edge, cloud, local, like pick it,
Yep.
choose your own adventure, and to where you want your agent to live and on what environment and all of that. So just to extend your comment just a little bit more there.
Yep.
Um, well, with that, if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen for just a moment.
I don't mind at all. There you go.
Let me share my screen. Um, Folks, again, thank you for showing up today. Thank you for those who joined the webinar and are watching from the webinar. Thank you for those that are watching from the YouTube live stream. And to those who will watch this as a recording, we really appreciate your participation and your suggestion at what our agent in action webinars should be. Just as a reminder, we do have our GitHub repo, SmythOS on GitHub. Take a look at our SRE, take a look at Studio. If you like what you see, you want to be part of that future, you're using that, please take the opportunity to star our repos. We also want you to, when you spin up that first agent, if you want to share it with the world, we want you to put it on the Smith Forge. And so we'd love to have you share whatever you create with the SmythOS community. We also have our SmythOS Academy. When, if you're getting stuck somewhere, maybe need a little bit of extra practice, take a look at some of our tutorials and walk through those. We also, our docs are super easy to get to. Once you go to the website, you'll see the bar there, the docs are there. If you haven't done so yet, we would love to have you join our Discord. Say hi in Discord. We've got several channels that are there to help you as well. And as always, our Agents in Action recordings are going to be on our YouTube channel. However, there's more than just our Agent in Action on our YouTube channel. We have template videos. We've got other informational videos out there, other how-tos, all those type of things that you can also get help with and learn through those that we share. Now, if you want to help shape the future of SmythOS, not just by, creating an agent and giving us that feedback or starring our repos, we also have community meetings on the first Tuesday of every month. Last week we had our one for November, but our next one coming up is on 2 December. In order to get that information, we need you to join the Discord channel, join the community meeting channel there. Everything's pinned. We've also got it now, a new section on the website called events. You can see our meetings, our agent and actions, any hackathons we're going to have coming up. All of those things will be on our event page. So take the opportunity to get to know a little bit about the SmythOS ecosystem and how you can find information, navigate, and also interact with us and the other members of the community. So again, can't say thank you enough. We're grateful that you joined, grateful that you're either watched live or you're going to be watching the video. And Mike, if you want to come back on camera for just a second, I'd like to also say thank you for presenting Airtable plus SmythOS. Your knowledge is great, and you have such a very compelling way to teach. You make people want to lean in. So thank you for that. And if you all are watching, you have other suggestions you'd like to see Mike or someone else at SmythOS present, please let us know. And with that, I'm going to say thank you and have a great evening.
Bye, everyone.